Zach, what's up, bud? It's good to talk to you again.
Jack, nice to see you, man. Thanks for inviting me out here for this combo. I'm stoked.
Yeah, dude, of course. I really just got a good vibe, like right when we met. What was it, last week?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right in Casa de Luz, the House of Light, the lighthouse in Austin.
Yeah, down here in Austin. You and I were just talking about positive presence, so I kind of gave you a little bit of a rundown of
Yeah.
the company and what I've been up to. But
Yeah.
what I don't think I told you was that I've been working for positive presence for about a year, and
Okay.
I've had about maybe 9 to 15 different male students that I've been coaching,
Cool.
and like they're all teenagers.
Yeah.
And so this has been fun because over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of solitude, right? Like a lot of challenges where kids, students are
Yeah.
staying at home, or like their entire world is like 180'd. And I think what I would like to start off with is like asking you more about this vibe that you gave off. Like when we first met, like it makes sense to me because I'm like living in fulfillment and
Yeah.
maybe alignment with my soul, and like
Yeah.
I feel this purpose, but like as a teenager, dude, their world was just like shook up, right? Like
Totally.
they don't have control of that. And so I guess what I wanted to ask you is like, what kind of life philosophy do you live by to help you have that sort of energy that you had that night that I met you? It was just very
Sure. Yeah. I'd love to dive into that. Great question. So, being positive is a really key foundation. But I will preface this by saying my friend Jaden has this line in a song. It goes really well. Positive vibes only is actually a negative idea because it separates out negative vibes. And in understanding what positive energy does is it's an attractive, welcoming energy, and we don't separate anything else out. So having been a teenager myself, a few moons ago, I will tell you that sometimes there's going to be times where you just feel down in the dumps. You feel negative. You feel these emotions that come up that you may not necessarily know how to handle. These are the kind of things I wish we taught in school. Like, okay, meditation, breathing techniques, how to sit with uncomfortable emotions, how to process your emotions, how to express what you're feeling, put it into words, doesn't necessarily have to be with everybody. It can be in a private space, like a one-on-one mentorship with a coach. So I will say from my own experience, that has changed my life. Even though I am a coach now, I still have a coach that I go to. I actually have 3 other coaches that I go to and I work with on a regular basis, and it changes my life every time. So I think I want to start the conversation by saying the way that we get to living in alignment, living in embodiment, living this preferred lifestyle is by normalizing negative emotions. Being like, oh yeah, I'm feeling crappy today. I'm feeling angry today. I'm feeling upset today. And being able to speak into those things.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I definitely want to ask you about your background and where you come from and all that jazz. I know I just jumped right into it, but
yeah,
we have this like chart, and it lists out emotions from negative to positive.
Right.
And I think one thing that I've really resonated with is like this phrase where like we only have like a handful of emotions, and we just keep saying those 5 to 6, 7 emotions over and over again. I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I'm tired, I'm happy, I'm positive. It's like there's so many other words to describe this. But backing up, man, like where do you come from and how did you get into life coaching?
Great question. Yeah, so I am originally from Maryland. My family is from Maryland. I was a swimmer there, and I always had a challenging time in high school growing up. actually in all school, grade school, middle school, high school.
Dude, dive into that, because this is for teenagers too, like
Yeah.
what
So let me tell you, if you're having a hard time fitting in, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. You're not the only one. And yeah, so I always had a really hard time fitting in with people. And I ended up going from group to group to group, like trying to see, do I dress this way? Do I act this way? Like what really feels like me? And where I really always felt my best was swimming, and having some type of physical activity, which later I would discover kind of the core, one of the keys of swimming, besides all the physical activity, is the breath work, learning how to breathe and expand your lungs and how much that actually regulates your nervous system. But it would be many years before I put those two pieces together. So I had some really challenging times in high school. I did not always get along with my parents. We didn't always see eye to eye. We had very different ideas on where my life path would go. And I ended up moving in with my friend down in North Carolina, spent a few years in Asheville, having kind of a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience, if you will, because I've always been a very spiritual person. But I've never been very religious. Like, I love religion, and if it works for you, I want you to continue it. I want to support that. For me, it left me with more questions than answers, which was a good thing for me. So that put me on a search for, okay, where can I find this God energy that we're talking about, which to me, like we were talking about earlier, a little bit before the call, is really just positive energy. It's really just this like all welcoming, all loving presence that's like, hey, everything is okay. Even your negative emotions, it's all good. So I ended up learning and discovering and meeting that within myself, and really in nature, in Asheville, which is a very beautiful city, a very beautiful place.
how old are
And
you?
that probably early 20s. So 21, 22, 23
Were,
in
were
that neighborhood.
were you in
So
college? Did you skip college?
So that was my college. Basically, that was one of the areas where my parents and I didn't agree. They were like, yeah, you need to go to college. You're totally lined up to be a doctor or a military leader or any of this kind of stuff. And that could have been my path. And a lot of my family has gone on that path. But for me, I was very much seeking something deeper. I was like, okay, well, all of those things are to make me happy. Well, why can't I have a more direct path to being happy right now and to just enjoying my life and doing what I love? So at that time, I knew that I was not ready for college. I would just get a big student loan debt and not really do much with it, because I was doing a lot of partying at the time, right? As tends to happen when we're younger and we're searching and figuring it out, and we have trauma that we haven't healed and integrated. So I did a lot of partying at that time, and I knew that was all I was going to do if I went to college. So I allowed myself to go off and just go right into work and start working a job and basically party and just have fun with my friends and go do things, hang out in the woods, go camping, do all the stuff that I wanted to do on the weekends anyways. And that would lead me to the experience of what I would call like meeting God within everything, within nature, within the trees, within the wind, the rocks, within myself, within all of the people that I was sitting with. And I was like, okay, this is what it's all about. And that put me on this path to where I really felt called to create the best quality of life for myself and my friends, my family, my community, the world at large, and invite everybody into that. And that would put me on the path right here. You can't really see it, but that little thing on the wall,
Yeah.
that's the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine certification from Asheville, North Carolina, where it was a hobby for me for almost 10 years before I finally went back to school and got my certification in herbal medicine. And somewhere along that journey, I had shifted. Basically, the way I paid my bills was by doing IT stuff. I loved computers. I loved IT stuff. And everybody's like, well, why don't you do that? You can make a lot of money doing that. And I did. And I did that for a while, but it wasn't really totally fulfilling for me. Basically, I would take all my IT money and go spend it in the woods and making medicines and all of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, this combination of spirituality and being connected to nature, really finding this positive energy within me inspired me to do a lot of spiritual searching, read a lot of self-help books, go into a lot of different religious philosophies, texts. And what I found for me is that in all of these different religions, they were all saying the same thing. They were literally all saying the same thing in a different way. They were just all encouraging you to be loving, to be forgiving, to have a good time, to take care of the earth and take care of your friends and your family, and everything will be good. And I was like, oh, this is simple. This is what we can do that. And somehow or another, that put me along the path to become a life coach. So I ended up working with a couple of people and didn't necessarily resonate with them very much. But I just started checking out different coaches. And then I worked with one coach and Derek, and we ended up publishing a book together called Activate Your Life. And so I put out my articles and ways to help people. And it was still just kind of a hobby for me at the time. I wasn't really taking clients. I would just practice on my friends and help everybody because that's what I love to do. And eventually a lot of my friends were like, yeah, you should do this professionally. And they're like, I think this is probably better than your IT thing. So I ended up meeting my friend Brandon, who is still my coach and who I work with. And he introduced me in a program we have called the 13 to my friends Jaden and Lance. And so the three of us are the four co-facilitators of a program. Megan, who you met with me, has also been through that program. I think you know Lauren as well. She has also been through that program. I don't know if you've met Kayla. She's been through. But so ultimately, learning how to be a coach in that program really helped me embody it in the way that I prefer. And I was able to fully launch my medicine business, fully launch my coaching business, and kind of combine those in sort of a holistic healthcare type of sense where I'm not a doctor. I don't tell anyone what to do. I just make them aware of all these different things and say, go ahead and bring this to your doctor or to your healthcare team, and we can go from there. And basically, one of the most important things that they don't necessarily teach in school, and even if you hear it, you may not want to hear it at first, but the most empowering thing I can offer to young man growing up along this path is the sooner you can take responsibility for your story. We call this radical responsibility. The sooner you can take responsibility for your story, the sooner life will stop feeling like it's out of control and feel like you have power over everything. You lose that sense of powerlessness and you trade it in for a sense of power. Maybe not necessarily to control everything that happens, but to control your story about it, right? The best parable I can use is the story of the shoes. Okay, this used to be a Buddhist story. It was a story of the arrow, but that doesn't really translate very well anymore. This is literally thousands of years old and it still works today. Okay, so let's say you got a pair of shoes. You got a brand new pair of shoes. You're walking around, you have them for 6 months or so. And then one day you're just walking along in the shoes and the shoes rip. Okay. That's the experience of life. You can't control that. The shoes ripped. What happens next is what you can control. This is where we have a choice. What am I going to make that mean? And how is that going to make me feel? So on the one hand, I could go, oh man, these cheap shoes, they ripped, dang it. Now I have to go get some new shoes. I'm just so upset about this. Now it's just gonna be one of those days, man. Just my shoes ripped first thing. And now, I'm just gonna have a bad day because of that. Or I could also go, oh man, my shoes ripped. Great. All right, man, I've been wanting a pair of new shoes. It's time to go get some new shoes. I've been ready to change up my style. I've been ready to change up my look. And these ones already lasted me 6 months already. They normally only last me like 3 months. Like, oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'm gonna have a great day today. I'm gonna go start off and we're gonna go get me a new pair of shoes and I'm gonna wear those around town. Right. And so, yeah, that's totally what we have, that power at every opportunity. We can't necessarily change what happens, the shoe ripping, but we can choose, what do we make that mean? Is that going to make me feel negative and have a bad day? Or is that going to make me feel positive and have a good day? And there's really no right or wrong answer. Your reaction is what it is. And what we teach in the program, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her or not, but there's a really great author and coach. Her name is Byron Katie.
I love her. I use
yeah,
her free worksheets to
there
describe
you go.
the emotions, and if you didn't have this emotion, what emotion
Yeah,
would you be feeling?
right.
And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I do try to talk to some of my students about it. And
Yep.
I mean, the way the positive presence works is like we all just bring in whatever we know about. So I've listened to so many podcasts and like heard Byron Katie on it, and I'm like, you guys are getting Byron Katie at
Yeah,
18.
this is it. This is it, right? So if we had learned that when we were, really 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, as soon as we could, that could really change our whole life. We learn the process of inquiry, which is questioning our thoughts. What am I saying? What am I believing? How am I feeling? How does that make me feel? Right? And who would I be if I couldn't believe that? Or who would I be if I believe something different? And can I find a way to relate to this thought or tell this story so that it is more true?
Dude, I think what you're saying is so important. And a lot of the guys that I talk to, and uh, I don't think they really see it in me as
Yeah.
much as I wish they would. And so
Yeah.
some people around me, they sometimes describe me as like you have like this most fun life. Like how do you do that? And it's like, well, you keep thinking about like in those moments where your shoe breaks, like this is fine, like this is okay.
Yes.
Like I'm ready
Exactly.
for a new wardrobe change, or I'm ready. Like
Yep.
you just got to shift that perspective.
Yep.
um like I think it's called reflection theory, where you're like everything that's happening to us, through us, around us is
Yep.
like a reflection of us.
Exactly.
And
Right.
I mean, when I hear some of the guys that I talk to, they are that reflection for me, which
Yes.
is the reason I love this job. Is like, even though, I mean, I don't really call it a job, but like the reason I love doing this is that it's
Yes.
like I don't really have to think about me. I go speak with them and listen and empathize and be patient and sit with them and
Right.
hang out with them, watch meme videos or whatever. But then I hear the way they talk and I'm like, what you just said is also how I think. And I'm realizing like, oh man, it's time for me to maybe make a change.
There it is.
It's like,
That's it.
it's so
That's it.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the greatest part about coaching, is that the work is never really done. And it's interesting you bring up reflection theory, because there's another school of thought called human design. And by human design, I'm actually a reflector. So we're less than 1% of the population. It's kind of a rare human design type, but that's basically what I do all the time. I
I'm a
can listen.
projector.
Nice. See, so you like to be invited, and you guys have really good views of how we can do things. So I'll be like, hey, Jack, what do you think about this? Right.
Yeah.
And then I just sit back and listen and reflect on what you're saying. And that's what I do. I can literally listen to, this is what they call, in spiritual science, it's known as omnipresence. So omnipresence means that I can literally be present in every conversation in the room, right? So I can be talking to you right here, right now, but then if somebody's talking over my shoulder over here, I can catch what's going on over there. I can literally watch a TV show, listen to music, do my homework, talk to somebody, and do all these things all at once. Not necessarily everyone can do that, but that happens to be a gift that I've cultivated. And I think everyone has the capacity for that. And the more we listen and reflect and drink it in, the more we can recognize, like, oh, okay, yes, it's easy to help other people. I don't know if you've noticed this or not. This is how it's been for me. It's like, oh, I can easily give you advice. Let me tell you how to handle that, right? But then when it comes down to myself, I struggle. I struggle, which is why coaching is so powerful, you
Do you
know?
struggle doing it or being aware of it?
Both. I struggle doing it and being aware of it. Mostly it's the awareness piece, right? I don't know how to give myself the advice. But if you were to reflect the same struggle, I would very easily be like, oh yeah, all you need to do is this here, right? And then as I'm telling it to you, I realize I'm actually also telling it to myself. I'm reinforcing it to myself. And that's the beauty of coaching and really being embodied, right? If we don't develop the sense of ego that most professions want us to develop, oh, I've got it all figured out, I'm all healed, I know the answers. If you're unteachable, then you have nothing to gain, right? And if you have nothing to gain, then you're going to lose the value of every moment, of every lesson, of every experience. If you always remain teachable, that means that you can learn even when you're teaching. That means that you can learn from the advice that you give to other people. And
Yeah.
then when you do that, you're gold.
Yeah. Sometimes when I give the advice, I'm like, insert student's name. I'm not even talking to them. I'm talking to me.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
like telling them
Exactly.
something, but I'm like, this, like in the back
Yeah.
of my mind, I'm like, Jack, you're talking to yourself, right?
Yep. Yep. And I'll tell you from my experience, being fully transparent, being fully vulnerable with the people that you're working with, and being like, hey, you know what? As I'm telling you this,
Yeah.
I'm realizing how I can improve my own life by doing it. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing with me, because this is actually going to help make my life better. So good job. You're doing great. Let's both implement this, and then let's check up on each other in a week or two and see how did it help you? What worked for you? What changes did you make? What changes did I make? And then we can keep help building a better life together and, individually.
Yeah, man. I think some of these like obstacles that teenagers are going through right now, that what I think is a answer is to be able to reflect. And I
Yes.
think what's happening right now is a lot of these guys are spending time, video games, social
Right.
media,
You got it.
porn, all this
Yep.
stuff like that is just flooding their
Yep.
mind.
Right.
So even,
Dopamine overload.
yeah, man. And like, I think one of the obstacles I've had is, or one of the challenges really is to like be really clear on what the challenge is. And
Yeah.
the only way that I've been able to do that is to write in my journal.
Yeah.
I'll do one in the morning. I love it.
Always
I knew
have
I
my
was going to
journal
get
next to
into it.
me.
Like,
I always have my journal next to me. It's an ancient program that we have had. Is kind of like how it works. Okay, so we program ourselves with writing things down. That's why in school they make you write so much, because you retain it and it reprograms you subconsciously. And
mhm.
then you can be the writer, you can be the author of your story, you can write down the journals, the things that you want to, and that will really change your whole life. So I just wanted to touch base on the importance of journaling and writing down and expressing our thoughts and feelings, because that's a big powerful part of inquiry and coaching and building a better life.
Yeah, man. One of the most depressed times I had was probably in 2018, 19.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until I got out of it.
Yeah.
And I was, I created a company, and it was a video production company. And I think you doing IT is like my video. We're like,
Right.
I'll go do it, but I don't
Right.
really
It makes
like,
sense, but in my heart's not really.
yeah. Yeah. My heart's into this kind of stuff. My heart's in
Exactly.
nutrition, like we were talking about, and sailing and boat stuff. But
Yeah.
what I was thinking about was that I would journal every night, and I would write down what I wish I was doing, and what I wish I would have said to someone, or what I wish I would have like um just came clean about, and like, just like shared, but I felt too unsafe to share. And so I
Right.
looked back at these journals, and it was like, oh my God, I really felt bad about myself and the situation I was in. And
Yep.
it wasn't anything scary. It was just business. And I don't think that I'm like the normal, business, guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to say that, but like, I just don't think that the vibes that a lot of the business world is made on is fits me.
Right.
So I'm just in like the wrong place, right? Like my soul's not in it. Maybe I've got energy because I've like just literally got energy, but I don't love it. And there is maybe some fulfillment where I'm like
Yeah.
making a video and it's like, okay, well, I'm proud of myself. Like I crushed it. Like this video is
Yeah.
incredible. And, but it's like not everything's there. And so the reflecting and the, basically the writing and the journaling helps me see and be very clear about you're not happy. Like, and that's okay.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
It's time to make a kind of a radical change.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are
That's a
definitely
great,
some
that's,
medicines that help me come clear on that as well.
yeah, that's a great obstacle to speak to. So couple of layers there that I want to touch on, all the layers. The first layer is that we are really more designed by design, instinctively, natively. We're all indigenous citizens of planet Earth. We're designed to be a nomadic people. We used to be 20 times more active than we are today. And physical activity creates endorphins, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, all the feel good chemicals. They come from the food that we eat, right? Which used to be 90 to 900 times more dense in nutrients and nutritional value. So it's another thing I'm really big and passionate about is
Yeah.
teaching people how to grow their own food and go out into nature and grab stuff that's been growing in nature by itself for hundreds of years and hasn't lost that nutritional value. So if we can get better diets, we can get better exercise, that's going to help pull us away from the things that we do to fill the void, which these things didn't actually exist when I was a kid. So I'm actually a little bit older, and I came up in the 80s is when I was born. And I literally came up from a time when you had tune to dial on a TV and there was antenna things, like cable was a new invention. The internet didn't even exist. I existed before the internet. Okay. So like there were no smartphones. Video game was Nintendo. And it was like, I didn't even get that till I was like 6 or 7 years old. And that was like the latest and greatest thing. Like even my dad was playing that, right? Now, I would say I can't imagine, but I can imagine the challenges of growing up in a society where we're always on our smartphones, which, although the technology is intended to connect us, as you were saying, a lot of times it creates isolation and disconnection, especially over these past few years where we were literally not allowed to be in physical space and proximity with each other. And I can't imagine when I was in school, if somebody would video all the crazy stuff that I did, right, and then put it up on the internet, and then it went viral, and everybody's talking about it, and that's a whole other layer of obstacles that we need to deal with. But the solution is still the same. The solution is this right here, what we're doing right here. It's one-to-one connection,
Mhm.
or a safe, sacred space. So setting the container is a big part of my coaching and what we do. And I do it at all the retreats that we run. I do it for our calls. Just happens to be one of the things I'm really good at. Like, hey, this is a safe, sacred space. In this space, it's totally okay to feel however you do. It's totally okay to talk to all of your emotions. And if you want it to stay here, it's going to stay here. And then if you feel that you get help from it and you want to share that with someone else, then we can also do that, right? But it's not required. And bringing people into that safe, sacred space where it can express either one-on-one or with a group of peers is incredibly helpful. We can even journal together, write down, get into our feelings, find out what's going on. And those are the answers that we're really looking for. Those are the experiences that we're looking for. When we reach for the video game and we want to play and all of that, sometimes maybe 5 to 10% of the time you're doing it to disconnect and to just be in your own space, which is totally okay. But the other 90% of the time, when you're reaching for the smartphone and the social media and all the other things, you're looking to connect. And what you're really wanting to invite is either one-on-one or a group space. And you can go camping, you can go play outside, you can wild forage food, you can work in the garden, you can make medicines. There's all these different experiences that are not as available as they used to be. So if we can speak to that problem and we can create those containers like you guys have done here at Positive Presence, like we've done with the 13, then we can create communities and environments that are supportive, where we can be ourselves fully without being judged or made to be wrong or bad for having feelings or emotions that, by the way, we all have.
Yeah.
Whatever thought you guys are going through, whatever you've struggled through, I've struggled through it too. You're not the first person to be angry, to be sad, to have this thought, to have this feeling, to feel hurt, to feel lost, to feel alone. These are all parts of the human experience that we all go through. And the more we can normalize it and be like, that's okay, come over here, let's talk about it, let's get it out, let's journal, and let's question those thoughts. Let's turn them around. Let's write a new story. How would you prefer to feel? Who would you prefer to be? And invite and support each other to do that. That's just naturally going to bring us into this embodied positive energy that we're talking about. This field of basically miracles. We call it miracle makers, but I mean, a miracle is literally just a shift in perception. It's like the shoe again, right? The miracle is seeing it, the shift from seeing it as a bad thing and having a bad day to seeing it as a good thing, being okay, even if it's not okay and I don't have time to go get a new pair of shoes. Well, guess you gotta make time now. Guess you do have time. That's the shift. And as soon as we can shift that more and more, it can bring us into synchronicity. And the final layer of this problem I want to speak to is what you and I have gone through, and where we can share our wisdom with these young men and these young people who are potentially connecting and benefiting here, is that we are taught, we're indoctrinated to believe that we have to go work a job to make a bunch of money in order to be happy. And that leads a lot of us down the path of things we don't prefer: technology, videos, all these different things, because that's where the money is. There's a lot of really miserable doctors. There's a lot of really miserable millionaires. I know because I've worked with them and I talk to them. There's a lot of really people that are not happy with the six figures that they earn, because it's smart and it makes sense and it gives them all the things that they want. But as you said, their heart's not in it. And then there's no sense of fulfillment. So one of the biggest things we like to ask and we like to turn around for everybody is, what is your highest excitement? What is the most exciting thing? What are you most passionate about in life? Because everybody has a different answer for that. For some people, it's music. For some people, it's helping other people. For some people, it's art. For some people, it is technology and creating things. For some people, it's working with their hands and building houses and engineering, making medicine, going into the woods, swimming, like whatever it is. It could be 3 or 4 things. But if we could understand, the truth is, this is how we're designed to be. And like, they actually get to this in Star Trek, which I'm huge into, like Star Wars, Star Trek, all the good stuff, right? So I'm with you guys on the mainstream media. But in Star Trek, it takes place in the future. Star Wars takes place in the past, a long time ago, a galaxy far, far away. There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of strife, there's just struggle, right? We learn about this force, though. Star Trek takes place in the future. And it takes place in a future where all of these technologies are literally based on real world technologies that we are developing. And in the future, they don't even need money. They don't really use money. So there's this whole galactic federation that everybody belongs to that just is dedicated to the well-being of all beings. And we just go around, and the way that it works is the way that we were designed is all of the wealthy, abundant people just become mentors. And they just mentor people and they invite people in, and then people get a chance to apprentice. So the question is asked, what are you most passionate about? What would you do for free? Yeah. Anyways, what do you love to do? And then people can have a chance to do that. And when we can go into that alignment, we can go into that passion, we are just of highest service. A lot of religions talk about being of service. Well, the way that we're of highest service is to be ourself fully, to ask that question, what's most exciting? What am I most passionate about? And to do that no matter what, even if it's like, well, I have no idea how to make money as a coach. I have no idea how to make money as an artist. I have no idea how to make money swimming and playing in nature and doing the things that I love. That's okay. Who would you be? How would you feel if you knew that pursuing your passion absolutely will provide for and protect you? I mean, I'm a living example of it. All the guys that I work with, literally, we don't know necessarily where the next paycheck is coming from, right? But we know that if we stay on our pursuit and pursue what makes us happy and what makes us fulfilled, we're in this energy of embodiment. And that energy literally creates our reality. We actually learn this when we're about 3 years old, but we mostly get traumatized. But we realize at some point that the feeling we have inside actually creates and attracts our reality, not the other way around.
Mhm.
But at some point we surrender that and we go, oh, okay, in order to be happy, I have to be secure. I have to have a house. I have to be in a good relationship with mom and dad. I have to have these friends. I have to have these games. I have to have these clothes. I have to have these things, which is true, but only if we believe it. If we really believe that all of those things are a byproduct of us being in this embodied positive energy of being happy and just going along that path, the paradox of it is, even if you don't know where you're going, if you're in that energy, you just attract it. You just
You do.
literally just attract it and create it. And next thing you know, you are making more money than you know what to do with, because it's not about the money. The money is a byproduct of living in alignment, in your positive energy, in your passion, and
Mm.
inviting everything and being okay with everything, even the negative stuff, even with your shoes ripping, like even with people treating you poorly or treating other people poorly. You can still be okay with that, address it, speak to it, and invite a better way, and just continue along doing what you love to do. So that is definitely one of the primary ways that we like to invite people to overcome obstacles, is by asking these questions and using these tools and bringing that in. And then we add in different layers like breath work and herbal medicine and healthy diet, healthy exercise. It's like the more legs you can get on your stool, the easier it is to balance the stool, right? If you're balanced on one thing, I can only be on IT. Oh man, that's really hard. But oh, okay, I can be a coach, and I can be a medicine maker, and I can do retreats, and I can make music, and I can do these things. Suddenly I've got all these different layers of support, and my life is more stable, and I'm able to just do whatever feels good at that time or at that moment, continue pursuing a passion, like going to a water conference in Austin and talking about Colombian water and the most healthy water in the world, and
Yeah.
like thinking how, oh, okay, how can I invest in a really expensive machine and make it worth my time? And oh, by the way, oh, we're gonna have a coaching call. And man, would you like to be on a podcast? Let's talk about these things.
Yeah.
You can't make up those synchronicities. This, when you're in that energy, it synchronously creates and attracts the circumstances in life that you do prefer.
Yeah, dude, I think what you just described is so true. I feel stable and like balanced, even though like I don't know when my next boat charter is coming. You know,
Right.
like in 2 weeks
Yeah.
from now, like I don't have
Right.
it on the calendar. But
Right.
yesterday I got a call and it's like, hey, can you do two on Saturday, one on Friday, one on Sunday? I'm like, yeah, sweet. So
Perfect.
like,
Perfect.
and why? Because last week I was like so happy and energetic, and like,
Yes.
dude, even this year, as I'm working on these boats, everybody who's been on the charters this year have all been from Austin, and they're all
Nice.
friends of a friend. And so now I'm
Right.
like starting to meet all these really good people. And
Rubbing elbows, baby.
yeah. And out on that lake, there's some sort of like bachelorette, bachelor party, sort of like uh invitation. Like those kind of people want to go out to the
Yeah.
lake. And so
Yeah.
it can get pretty drunk, toxic.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm like kind of separated from it now. And it's
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. And it's what I've been
Yeah.
asking for.
Yeah.
And I think through that whole process, which, you know, this is all sounding great, but I think sometimes that people just get impatient. Is like,
Yes.
that took me a year, like it took me a whole year. I had to go into the winter with a different job. So I had to have another uh, stool, like another
Yes. Exactly.
leg to my
Yeah.
stool
Yep.
for work, just to make it back to the summer. But I think all this is amazing, and like the patience that it requires is super important. Like to not get beat
Yeah.
up by one
Nope.
rip on your shoe, one,
Yep.
you know, those guys and girls who have these like perfectly white shoes and they get mad when someone like gets dirt on them. It's like, well,
Yeah.
why did you
Yeah.
get perfectly white shoes in the first place
Yeah.
if you're gonna freak out?
That was
I mean, like,
definitely not me. Yeah, I was the one stepping on their shoes and making them mad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, you gotta have some patience
Yes.
and rhythm. I mean, even when you're saying there's these things, you're kind of like dancing, and it is like a dance where you gotta um, get a good feeling with something over here, and then ride that wave of
Yeah.
like, let's say you like nutrition, so you go to a retreat or a little um, conference that maybe you spend $15 to get in. I don't know. Like,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
worth
That's a
it.
good point. Just to underscore you, I want to keep going on this, but that's a really valid point. If we invested 5 to 10% of our income in ourselves,
Yeah.
we would see probably a 500, 5,000, 10,000 times return on that. Literally, if you take uh, most people spend about 25 to 35% of their income coping with just what you were talking about, drinking, going out to get drunk, to not feel their feelings, right? So I'm
Ah,
going to invite you to challenge those people when they're out there being drunk. Be like, hey, why do you drink? What's going on? What are you thinking? What are you feeling right here? Do you want to talk about it? Right? So,
yeah,
but most people are taught, we're conditioned to spend about 20, 25, 30, 35% of our income on coping things that are not healthy. So I'm not even taking all that away. I'm just like, okay, you can still do that, but give yourself, me, I'm yourself. Give yourself at least 5 to 10% of that income and invest it in yourself. Invest it in coaching. Get a one-on-one coach. Who else has coaches? The best athletes in the world. Who else has coaches? The best singers in the world. You
yeah,
know, like literally all of the most successful people in business, they have business coaches. Literally, the key to success is investing in a coach that resonates and works with you, and investing in tools like Byron Katie's audiobook. She has a lot of stuff. She has so much wealth that she gives it away for free. Like you said, it's on the website. Like, hey, okay, you can just do this for free. And then maybe you'll set up a session with her, which does have a cost to it. But ultimately, get the audiobooks, pay to go to the retreats, pay to go to the events, invest in yourself constantly. That's the whole point of like going to college, is to be investing in yourself. Instead of having this idea, I'm going to invest in myself one time and then stop learning, have a continual education, have a continual relationship, realizing that investing in yourself is literally, absolutely the best investment you can ever make. So,
yeah. I
yeah,
totally agree.
didn't
I
mean
love
to steal your
it.
thunder there. Let's keep
No,
going.
that's a great place to cap it off, because
Yeah.
I think that's what all these kids are doing. And like when I do meet them for the first time, maybe they're curious, maybe their mom or dad brought them into it, but then we talk and they're like, yeah, I'll jump on the phone every other week.
Right.
And subconsciously, I think they do know that they are investing in themselves by hanging out with someone who's 10 years older than them, you know?
Exactly. Yep.
And they have, I try to do a good job of giving them a safe space, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like they do have this friend on the internet that
Yeah.
is not looking at his phone, present with them, listening, hanging out,
Yep.
and I'm thinking about things to help them invest in themselves.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because I'm doing it for myself as well. But
Yeah, you're doing
yeah,
amazing, man. You're doing amazing. So, like, I don't know about for you, but for me, I went through a lot of years of therapy, and I'm not knocking therapy. Like, if that works for you, go ahead and do that. But I got more done in coaching than I ever did in therapy because of what I talked about in the beginning, radical responsibility.
yeah,
With a, I'm here for you, but I'm not going to take responsibility for you. We're in agreement that you're going to take responsibility for yourself, and I'm just going to be responsible to you. Okay. Being responsible for someone means that I am literally responsible for how you feel. which is impossible.
It's
because
impossible. I hate when people say, you made me feel this way. It's like, or I feel
exactly
this way because of this. It's like,
right.
ah,
It's so disempowering, right? Because you can't control that. The only one that's responsible for our emotional body is us ourselves. But what we can do is we can shift it from being responsible for each other to being responsible to each other. So when I'm responsible to you, what that means is I go, hey, okay, cool. I see how me saying this would make you feel that way. And I want to remind you that that wasn't my intention. I want to be responsible to you and remind you, you are responsible for how your story goes and what you make things mean and how you make yourself feel. So how can I help you and support you in feeling the way that you prefer to feel rather than feeling bad or wrong or negative from something that I didn't intend to make you feel bad or wrong or negative about.
and then that word prefer,
Yeah,
that's important because people
that's a good one.
stuck and
Yeah,
conditioned to feel
exactly.
those
Yeah,
same 5 whatever
yeah.
emotions.
That's another big one. That's almost one of the first things I do with coaching clients. We set the container, and then almost every time on the first call, we go into the difference between a preference and a condition. So we can do that real quick right now. And I always use ice cream, okay? Because ice cream, everybody can understand and relate to ice cream, right? So this is another story, right? So preference versus condition. I go into the ice cream shop and I'm like, hey, yeah, I want sprinkles on my ice cream today. I prefer sprinkles on my ice cream. And they're like, okay, cool, here you go, sprinkles on your ice cream. And I'm like, yeah, I'm eating my ice cream with sprinkles, a great day, you know? And I go back the next day and I'm like, hey guys, I would like sprinkles on my ice cream today. And they're like, sorry, Zach, we don't have sprinkles today, right? And preference goes, oh, okay, well, that's a bummer. You know, I wish that you did have sprinkles, but you know what? That's okay. I'll come back tomorrow and ask for them, and I'm gonna have my ice cream without sprinkles anyways, right? Condition shows up. Sorry, Zach, we don't have sprinkles today. What?
Yeah.
You have sprinkles? What kind of an ice cream place is this? Give me that. I'm gonna throw it in your face. Oh, like, that's what happens when we put a condition. It has to be that way. If they don't have the sprinkles, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm miserable. So the more we can shift from conditions to preference, the easier it is to flow with the ebbs and flows of the life and the ripped shoes and the running out of sprinkles and still be in that place of positive, empowered energy, which attracts more of what we do prefer, right? When we're in that space of negative energy and things are not good and conditions need to change. And until they do, I'm going to stay in this negative energy. We're just going to keep attracting negative circumstances to keep us in that energy. It's a paradox.
Yeah,
So the sooner we can shift to preference, the sooner we can get there.
man, I love it. I love
There
it.
you go. There you go.
Dude, this has been
Oh,
great.
yeah, it's a great goal.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would ask, is there anything that you want to leave for the audience, of positive presence? It could be, you know, some like tools and resources, or some
Yeah.
sort of phrase that you've lived your life by. Um, yeah, is there anything that you'd like to leave both the students and some of the older audience that listen
Yeah,
to?
absolutely. Well, first, you can always connect with me anytime, right? So just a little plug, wildchildmedicines.com. You know, you can find me on Instagram at treesat. I'm literally dropping this wisdom and knowledge on a daily basis.
Yeah,
This is
you're
what I
active on
do.
there.
This is what I love to do, right? I might be talking about gardening one day, might be talking about medicines the next day, might be talking about water another day, might be talking about your thoughts and inquiry one day. So you got to stay tuned in, and you will get all of this wisdom and this medicine and this presence. And all right, what I really have to say to and for you guys is powerful. Sometimes when it's powerful, I sweat and tears come up, my voice shakes. But when you have this, say it anyways. You are valuable. Every single person watching this. God doesn't make mistakes. Didn't make a mistake creating you. Creation would not be complete without you. We need you. We need each other. We are not independent. We are interdependent. We're all part of the same ecosystem. So what I want to invite you to, what I need from you is the best version of you, because that makes the world a better place. Yeah. That makes the difference between a friend that takes their life and one that doesn't. And I've lost a lot of friends. You could be the difference. You could say the same thing that I'm saying and someone else will receive it, and they don't receive it from me. That's how valuable you are. You are literally the answer to someone's prayers. So remember that. Take that home, put that in your heart, and realize that's how valuable you are. Blessings, my sacred friend.
Thank you so much.
And that's for you too. That's
I'm right here.
that is you.
Me right now.
That's it. That's who we are, everybody. That's who you really are when you get rid of all the stories and you take responsibility and you be yourself fully. You're literally the answer to someone's prayers. You literally were created by an omnipotent being or force or energy or whatever you want to call it, in order to make all of existence, all of experience a better place to be. So put that in your tea, put that in your journal, put that in your mind, plant that seed, cultivate that in your mental garden, and embody that every day.
Dude, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for that meeting of water and running into you.
Yeah. It happens for a reason. It's synchronicity, it's connection, you know?
Yeah.
Divine ordained.
Love it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna hit the record button and stop recording.